Thirst is the worst.
Thirst the worst, bitch.
I don't know, I don't think I've heard that's what someone's gonna propose.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like they've got a lot of familiar reformist proposals that they want to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, where did you hear that from?
I heard that.
Great.
We going here?
Oh, really?
I think he said, what did he say, 105? I don't remember what he said.
What do you think? I don't know what that guy did.
What did he do?
I don't know.
Y'all couldn't have used that much tape.
Thank you. I'm trying to make mine all pretty with the tape rolls.
What did you say? I don't want to do anymore.
I don't know how not having them in school. That's my question.
On this wall right here. And on this wall, there's a lot of space.
The thing I don't understand about this is that
I overheard you saying
Oh, yeah.
it, and I mean, my dream eventually would be to move away from that policy in general.
of
And
what people
also-
calling the police.
Of people calling the police in the schools. And right now, that power rests with the principal being able to do that theoretically, right? And also it sends a certain message in the school district if you have like a police localized within the school and also funded within the schools. Like it feels like a distinction to me between like us paying for the cops and paying to have them located in the schools versus like, yes, we can engage with them because we're required to engage with FPD. Does that make sense? Is there a distinction?
Somewhat. I mean, I don't understand. What is Madison Police Department wants its presence in the Madison Public Schools, and Madison Public Schools want Madison Police presence in the schools? Who's pushed? They both. So they both want each other in the space.
They perceive it as being about relationship building and in creating like a liaison between MPD and MMSC.
Don't they already have that? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. I think to me it seems like they want more officers pulling more overtime, pumping more money into the union, putting more money into the union dues. So
Right.
it seems like.
Yeah.
And it seems like a make work program.
I don't disagree with you too. And the thing is too, we have plenty of alternatives we can be using that aren't being effectively used. Like, so MMSD has a partnership to do the like time bank youth court. What happens there is that like the officer located in each high school has full discretion to make referrals into that youth court. So like you could easily remove that officer from the equation and like educate administration and teachers on how to make referrals into the youth court, like because that infrastructure is already there. You don't need the police officer there just to make referrals. Does that make sense?
That
And
makes
what you
perfect
see,
sense.
right? And what you see with that referral system too is that disproportionately, like black students are referred into the youth court, right?
Where are they
Because
referred to?
I mean, so the referral into the youth court is an ulterior option to like receiving an arrest or a citation. So like if I'm the police officer in the school and you did something, I can say like, I won't give you this citation, but you go to youth court. But I have the power to make that choice.
Here's what I find fascinating. Why doesn't anybody want to create clear guidelines to get all of that huge officer's discretion out of the game so that there's clear actions that result in clear procedures?
It's a good question. I think my thinking is that part of it's cultural with the Madison Police Department and like police departments in general, in that like you mentioned the union thing, right? Like police departments are very tight, very like guarded people. Like they perceive themselves as doing like important work and they perceive themselves as a team, right? So like they don't want to be told,
Fire too.
Right, they don't want to be told what to do by an outside entity,
But the
including like
laws
MMSD.
tell them what they're supposed to enforce. So that's what I'm
Yes.
saying. So now they'll be dealing with administrative code, which I think becomes an issue that they're probably not trained that well to handle, where
Yeah, I agree with you.
their job seems to be, at least as I understand it, to acquire objective evidence for prosecution, to make arrests, and then process people through the court system. Now, when you talk about the youth court, that's obviously a kind of an alternative procedural system, how many of them even know how that operates or how to proceed? It seems all very arbitrary. It seems like, and that seems to be how police departments seem to like to operate, with like unbelievable amounts of powers that they can exercise as they see fit, without strict limitations on their ability.
You want to maintain that
to
discretion,
exercise, right.
because they perceive themselves as doing good. Yeah, I agree with
And
you.
would they all be forced to be camered up and mic'd up so they'd be acquiring objective evidence at all times?
Yeah, well, it's funny too, because if you look, you see that they're required to like jot down notes every day, and like oftentimes what they'll write is something really simple, like nothing to report.
Or they'll jot down something that isn't actually supported by objective reality.
Right, exactly.
Which is why don't organizations try to get police officers to stop being armed secretaries? Well, some of them.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is in Madison. I don't live in the city of Madison, but the city of Madison's officers and the University of Wisconsin police do not seem to be carrying cameras and microphones on at all times.
No.
They seem to be, from what I understand, very rarely using that technology.
They're in direct opposition to a lot of people. So, for instance, Families for Justice, you might already know this, but put out an open records request for the Madison Police Department to release some of their records, and like they haven't done it. Like it's a pending lawsuit, right? So like you can tell.
Who's paying for their records? Taxpayers.
Right.
So why does the police department view the records as private property?
Because power.
Okay, well then that's part of the problem.
I agree with you.
That's part of the problem, I think, statewide in Wisconsin,
Yeah.
is that there are too many police departments.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask, do you think that it's an overall negative that we have mandatory education? Don't you think that's like statist overreach? Like, don't you think that's like kind of big government? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
It's like a prison atmosphere, right? We all remember like what it was like, you know?
there's a lot of intentionality there too. I don't know. I haven't thought about it that far, but if you do look at, hi, how are you?
Like reduce the age that you can I don't want to say drop out because that has negative connotations, but
wanna get one of
opt
these?
out of school, you know what I mean? So that you can
enter the workforce.
pursue your own sort of maybe entrepreneurial ventures
I'm
or
interested in following the money,
right.
and if you follow the money, you can
Right.
see that a lot of school districts and a lot of schools use like similar funders or things like that. So like the same people who contract to like feed prisons also contract to feed schools, right? Like it's the same caterers, or like it's a lot of people who use the same blueprints. Like East High School was constructed using similar blueprints, or like a basic blueprints that had also constructed a prison, right? So like there's a lot of parallels to be had for sure.
These are the people who privatize the capital from the state apparatus. These are the sort of people who have a lot of influence in society, especially in this state.
I just always felt impeded by school. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm an anomaly, but I felt like I was being held back by being forced to be in this building personally. So I think that, I mean, I mentioned that a couple times. People kind of chuckled. It seemed kind of a radical out there idea, but maybe we should give more individual freedom to students to decide how they want to learn instead of the state forcing them to learn like a rubric of arbitrary stuff in a prison atmosphere. You know what I mean? So.
Sometimes it can be useful to have white adults sharing their perspective too, because they like, one of the things the committee has said is like, oh, this is a vocal minority who cares about this. So I always find it really useful to have white adults say, actually I care too.
You don't think the majority of people are concerned about having full-time law enforcement officers in Madison schools?
Honestly, like one thing I would say is like thinking about political utility, like even if you don't feel comfortable speaking, if you want to write down your comments, because like no offense at all, but you totally look like somebody who'd be like pro-cop, right? I mean, like you're a white Wisconsinite dude, right? And I say that not to be mean. I say that to say like, how can we use that politically, right? To say like, you might think I look a certain way, or like I would be in support, but like, how can we use this to actually like subvert that? Because people will listen to you. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I find that people are very dismissive of people with strong opinions backed by objective facts, regardless of how you look. People come into most discussions already making up their mind, trying to impose their will. I generally sit back and, though I don't really know everything, but I like to bring as many facts as possible and discuss it.
Yeah.
Engage in a bit of community polemics. I don't think most people like to discuss things that way, so I don't think people like listen to me because I'm always throwing out more questions than ideas, and I think that kind of, people don't really feel comfortable with that kind of way of discussing. But I guess I would say I'm pro cop, I don't like the way law enforcement works in Wisconsin. I wouldn't say I'm pro-cop in Wisconsin. The unions have tremendous amounts of power. That's why they were exempt from Act 10, because Republicans are getting huge amounts of money from the police. That's basically how it works.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why property tax is so high, because we're paying for these guys to retire.
Which means you're renting from the state. You don't own your property.
Yeah,
So
I wonder if you can narrow.
Would you think?
Yeah, we'd love to. Did you end up getting one of these?
I will in just a second. I
Okay,
have to
sounds
go
good.
put this on.
Yeah, just.
I mean,
yeah.
if we had a state gendarmerie that was modeled like the RCMP in Canada, non-union, non-collective bargaining, municipalities, counties could contract with it. There was a lot of oversight. It was a large bureaucracy. Then I guess you could say I would be pro-cop. That's the sort of system that I'd like to see, with fewer officers, more in plain clothes, more objective data acquisition. Like I would rather spend the money on like drone blimps that have, you know, what they say, nuclear beer on it, rather than having lots of patrols and lots of police officers hassling a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'd rather say, oh, there's somebody running around with a firearm shooting at squirrels. That's somebody who we've got on video, we're going to track them down, we're going to prosecute them, we're going to go get. But what we have is lots and lots of officers driving lots of Ford Crown Victorias and SUVs, burning a lot of gasoline, looking for people to engage. I just think there's a lot of waste in that system. So I mean, to say that I'm pro-cop, as it currently exists in Wisconsin, I have to say no way.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it's a really weird system that every municipality has these departments. Some of them as small as 36 officers, but yet costing over $3 million a year.
Yeah, yeah.
It's obscene.
And some of it's thinking about like what militarized equipment is being subsidized and provided to police departments.
From the federal government. And yet the federal government doesn't want to take the FBI, which is non-union, non-collective bargaining, and offer it under contract, which would be the RCMP model. The FBI isn't interested in going national and doing street patrols in the city of Madison, but they are interested in, you know, whatever it is they are doing, but they don't really want to expand that bureaucracy. The federal government likes to fund and inject money into municipal and county law enforcement agencies without making them function like a federal bureaucracy, which is to get rid of that really hyper-politicized, hyper-political union collective bargaining culture, which I think is kind of a problem.
Yeah.
It has been.
I disagree.
It's one of the reasons why we have such high costs.
Can I give you my cell phone
Okay.
so that we can like stay in touch?
Okay.
Versus the worst.
Subscribe, bitch!